Good evening. Evacuation efforts in Afghanistan were rocked this morning by at least 2 explosions in what 3 U.S. officials are calling a suicide attack. Glad to have you with us. I'm Jenny Day.
And I'm Adonis Albright. At least 13 U.S. service members are dead and 15 injured, according to the head of the U.S. Central Command. We do want to warn you, some of the images you're about to see in this story are graphic.
Isabel Rosales begins our coverage.
Disturbing images of people crying for help outside Kabul's airport in the aftermath of at least 2 confirmed blasts.
Are you guys in the right state of mind? Let's go.
These are fragments of a video not fully seen in public before that reveal brutal facts long denied by the US military. Let's go back to the horrific dusk of August 26, 2021. An ISIS bomb outside Kabul airport tears through a packed crowd. 170 Afghans and 13 American military are killed in the largest casualty event there in a decade. A moment of acute savagery at the end of America's longest war.
Raising Old Glory above the entryway of the Arlington National Cemetery.
Seeing the roads lined for blocks with police cars, with fire trucks, with civilians honking their horns or flashing their lights, standing at attention with their hands over their hearts.
A hero's welcome home, a final resting place for Staff Sergeant Taylor Hoover.
People who, like Staff Sergeant Taylor Hoover, pay the ultimate price, in my book, are heroes.
The 31-year-old was on his 3rd deployment to Afghanistan. He was leading a group of U.S. service members, helping evacuate women and children at the Kabul International Airport. Sergeant Hoover was fulfilling a dream to serve our country, something he was motivated to do at the age of 11.
For many of his men, it was their first taste of combat, and he was keeping them focused. He was making sure that they knew that he was there for them, that they had the ammunition he needed. He didn't need to be doing that. That's the amazing thing. He was rushing up and down to lift others, and because of that, he didn't see, as I've been told, the incoming suicide bomber and lost his life.
A solemn sacrifice, honored in the hallowed ground of heroes past. Sergeant Hoover's final dignified transfer complete.
Caring for others first, making sure that they were living up to their duty, that they had what they needed and were empowered to do their jobs. That's the Taylor Hoover that many of us didn't know before, but have come to know now and are better for it.
Good afternoon, everyone. Shane Jenkins here from Liberty's Cage. I have the distinct pleasure and honor and privilege to interview Mr. Darin Hoover, who is a Gold Star father to Taylor Hoover, who is a hero and fell at the botched Abbey, at the Abbey Gate, at the Afghan withdrawal, coming up on the anniversary 5 years ago, the 26th of August, I believe.
Yes.
And we just want to have a conversation. There's a lot of questions that his family has not had answered. We want to kind of get into the nuts and bolts of that. Darin, it's a pleasure having you on my show today. I feel like I'm way out of my league, but I'm so sorry for what you and your family has gone through, but I'm honored to pick up this mantle and fight alongside you and get the word out however we can and do whatever we can do to help you and your family.
I appreciate it, Shane. Anytime that I get to talk about my son is a good thing. Getting off into the weeds maybe a little bit as we go along, I'm okay with. There's a lot of answers that are still out there that we don't have, that we're fighting for. Like you said, we're coming up on the 5th year anniversary of this, and still we've got nothing. And frustrating is probably the lower end of how I feel. The top end being obviously anger and, wanting those answers and praying that soon those things will come. So But anytime I get to talk about Taylor, I'm thoroughly happy.
Well, Mel told me, she said that, you and him are a lot alike. It's like once you get a hold of that bone, we're not going to let go of it. And I think this is something that, like, it's up to, like, we keep thinking there's going to be a savior. Now, Jesus Christ is my Lord and Savior, I'll say that. But, like, we think somebody's just going to magically come in and fix what's going on in the government or get us answers, and it's not. It's really up to us to shake enough trees, piss enough people off, do enough interviews, to draw enough attention, tag enough of the people that are responsible for this in it to blow them up and really motivate something to happen. Like if we were protesting outside the White House or whatever it takes. I don't know what that takes, but I wanted to get into a little bit about your personal background and then kind of get into your son's background.
Okay. So I'm a retired police officer, 25 plus years here in Utah. Worked for a couple of different agencies, and luckily I was able to retire 3 years ago. So 2 years after Taylor was killed. Big time family man. Family is the only important thing I have in my life, because without family, we've literally got nothing. Proud as a peacock to have been Taylor's dad and still get to be. I know I'll see him in a different lifetime, and just knowing where he's at right now and that he's not in any more pain and will have no more pain gives me great comfort. But getting into Taylor, he was larger than life, a big teddy bear. He's about 6'1", 230-ish, but it's all just solid rock muscle. And growing up, he was always the bigger kid, of all of his friends and football players that he played with and all of that kind of stuff. From the age of 8, he started playing football locally here, went all the way through it up to high school, played in high school up through his senior year. But during that time, you notice things as they're growing up, and Taylor was always the anti-bully. He see things that were going on, a younger, smaller kid being picked on. And it didn't matter the size of the other dude, Taylor would step in. And like I said, it didn't matter. He'd go toe to toe. It didn't matter as long as that younger, smaller one was protected. And he was viciously that way with his 2 sisters and his mom. With me being always gone, at work constantly and all that, he pretty much became the man of the house. So fast forward a little bit, when he was 11 years old was when 9/11 happened. And we kept him home from school that day, not knowing, if this is a piece of a bigger thing. And so not knowing that, we kept all the kids home. But Taylor was watching the TV with his mom and I, and watched the second plane hit the second tower. Watched all the aftermath, obviously, the towers coming down and everything like that. And, he said right then and there, I'm going to be a Marine. And we're just, okay, lofty goal, good. But you're 11 years old. We're thinking this in the back of our minds. You're 11 years old. Things could change. It's just him being a patriot, because that's exactly what he was. He was raised to be that. He's got veterans on both sides of his family, his mom's side and my side. So it's ingrained, a little bit in him. Fast forward his junior year in high school, he started noticing the recruiters coming around. And, the Marine, the Army, all of them started coming around. And of course, he picks the best uniform, the best dressed uniform, the best looking one. Sorry, Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines got you beat. And he came home and said that he was very serious about joining. We're like, okay, that's fair. Still a goal to work towards. Let's see what another year brings. And he came home again after meeting with the recruiters and talked to his mom and I. And he said, through all of this, I still want to be a Marine when I graduate. We're like, okay. And I asked him to do me one favor. And that one favor was, give it a year after you graduate, go out in the world, see what it's all about, and get a taste of being away from school, everything organized, everything's going to be up to you now. And if you still want to join after that year, we will stand behind you 100%. He said, okay, that's fair. And he did that for us. He gave us a year. Comes back, says, nope, I still want to do it. Okay, you got it. So September of 2010, he went off to boot camp down in San Diego. stood on those yellow footprints, and became a Marine. His first time getting to the fleet, he was fortunate enough to have a very, very, very good sergeant that kind of took him under his wings. And he saw something in Taylor that we all saw, but he took him under his wing, got him. They were gearing up for the sergeant. It was another deployment. For Taylor, it was going to be his first one to Afghanistan. And in trusting Taylor with what he did, Taylor was out front with that sergeant, sweeping the area where they were all moving to with a minesweeper. Big old bulky thing. Plus he had his rucksack and his weapon and all that kind of stuff. They lost a couple of guys on that one, but he made it home. And when he made it home, you could see a huge, huge difference. Seeing the things he saw, doing the things that he had to do. We came home and he came home. We went to an outdoor mall down in Southern California. And of course it was noisy. It was rambunctious. Everybody's out shopping and having a good time. It's out on the ocean. And he's got his head on a swivel. I mean, just nervous as a cat on a hot tin roof. And I walked up behind him. I said, "Where do you want me to stand?" He's like, "What? Where do you want me to stand?" He's like, "Is it that obvious, Dad?" I said, "It is to me. Not your mom and your sisters, but it is to me. Where do you want me?" 6 feet behind me, either side, and don't let anybody come up behind me. Okay, done. And so that's the way it was until we left. Through all of his deployments, he was deployed to Afghanistan 3 times. Obviously, the last one taking his life, but he also went on what they call a MU, Marine Expeditionary Unit, where they would go on a ship, went from Japan to Korea to Australia, Guam, and did training with all of those different individuals too. So all in all, 5 deployments away from the United States. And it changed him. It didn't necessarily change his personality, but it changed his perspective on life and what's important, at least in my eyes, is what I saw. He'd come home and his sisters, who absolutely adore him, would fawn all over him. And obviously his mom and I were exuberant to have him home for a couple of weeks, but his cousins, his aunts, his uncles, his grandparents, I mean, like I said in the beginning, he was larger than life. And he'd walk in a room and immediately everybody comes around him. And, being the man that he is, everybody would just flock to him. And he ate it up. It's family. That's what was most important to him. It was family that he was around, and that was his greatest joy. Then the second joy would be all of his guys. He celebrated their successes. He stood by them on I wouldn't call them defeats, but, when they get down on themselves, whether it be training or, whatever it be, he was always there for them. It's amazing how many guys have come up to us since this happened and say that, they're better because of Taylor. They do things differently because of Taylor. And, what a honor to bestow upon him, and us through proxy, to Taylor. But he left some awfully big shoes to fill that, I can try all the rest of my life, the best that I can, to fill those shoes. And there ain't no way that I'm going to be able to do that. Nor would I honestly want to. Try, yes, but Taylor was his own self-made man, his own self-made leader. And that goes back to, his desire to be in the Marine Corps, to work out with them before we even went in. But then over to his guys when he was a leader, and how much he cared for and celebrated with and trained with. If there was anything that they had questions on, if he didn't know, he would find the answer. And if there was, say, a weapon system that he didn't know, he made damn sure that he knew it before he made his guys go and do it. So that's just the kind of leader that he became, and I couldn't be more proud of him. We couldn't be more proud of him.
Man, well, I believe that you are capable of, picking up the banner for the family and for Taylor and for fighting this fight, and I'm cheering for you. Like I'm thankful for Mel, and this can probably be edited out, but I'm thankful to meet people like you and like Mrs. Comprador that that have endured a hardship and are willing to not just like, because I've grieved, lost people in my life, and sometimes I just want to like lay down for it all to just go away, you know what I mean? But I don't think that serves anybody. It definitely doesn't honor, I think there's days and times for that, right? But I think it's like I think as men it's a little bit easier to harness that hurt and turn it into anger, which is like turn that into motivation and just kind of just go, just plow.
Right.
I don't like a bull in a china shop. I don't care who I piss off. I don't give a damn. I want them to know what's on my heart, and I think it's an admirable thing. So in his, I guess in the days, was he already in Afghanistan when this situation occurred? Because it looked like I've kind of been trying to study up on it. It looked like there was limited forces there, or maybe they were pulling people out. I don't know what it looked like. They pull a majority of the forces out because they were getting overrun, and then they started bringing more people in, more Marines and stuff like that in as the situation kind of developed. Was he already there? Or
no, they were outside. 2-1 was outside, and they were spread a couple of different places. Jordan, I think a couple of them were in Saudi, I believe. Taylor was out in the Strait of Hormuz, one that we all know of here lately because of the news, but he was out in the Strait of Hormuz on an intel ship, transiting back and forth across the strait when the call came down that they were heading in.
And so what was that call though? Like, was there like, hey, we need assistance, or hey, this is fixing to transpire, we're actually pulling out of Afghanistan, we need people here?
The Taliban had been quickly, and how, the head cheese is that the military didn't understand this. The Taliban was going lightning fast through Afghanistan. Obviously, President Trump had already announced that we were getting out in his first term. The difference that everybody forgets is that President Trump made it condition-based that we were going to leave. The Taliban's going to do X, Y, Z. You're going to leave us alone. We're going to get all of our people out. But it was all condition-based.
You touched one hair on one of my something. That was kind of that situation, right? Yeah.
Correct. And we gave up Bagram in the middle of the night. Told nobody. A solid base, protected. Gave it up. So all the evacuations had to go through HKIA, Hamid Karzai International Airport. A lot smaller. Not nearly. It wasn't secure at all. Everybody was racing to get out. Had to call the Marines, the Army Airborne, to all come back in because the Taliban was killing people left and right that are trying to escape that hellhole.
So we've basically announced we're withdrawing. The Taliban is like, oh, we're going to is Kabul maybe the capital? I don't know. They're coming in. The government in Afghanistan is falling. The people who are supporting our military, diplomats, these people that are not Taliban friendly, the women that are pro women's rights, want education, want to be seen in public, all these things, they're like, oh shit, we got to get the hell out of here, which has created this vacuum of people. Like now they're coming to these exfil points, which I guess was Bagram.
No, it was
Karzai. Okay, HKIA. And that's whenever they're like, hey, you guys got to get over here. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. They got to get in there. We still had Americans there as well. A bunch of the other countries, Britain was the main one that had people still in country, and we needed to help get them out. Right. In the meantime, the NEO happened. It was called the NEO, Non-Combatant Evacuation Operation. So getting all of our citizens out, helping other countries get their citizens out. And then it moved to the women, like you said, and the children who are going to be under Taliban rule again, where they've enjoyed, 20 years of freedom thanks to us and our allies. But now they're going to be back under Taliban rule. And, some of the individuals that were helping us over there, whether it be an interpreter or, somebody that was on the side of the U.S., they were all wanting to get out. Taliban is wanting to establish their rule again. And it was crazy. Taylor called his mom when he first landed and said, this is the absolute worst thing I've ever seen in my life. He said, chaotic. Nobody knew what to do, what they were doing. Nobody gave them any information. And, that just goes back to, poor planning.
Leadership. Leadership. I mean, I'm not a military scholar, but I would think, okay, if we're going to announce we're leaving, the Taliban's going to know, like, this is where the exfil or like where we're going to leave from.
Right.
Let's harden this up, like build some, sandbag it up, whatever we got to do, build a perimeter around it so we can start I don't know what you would call it, like the visa process where you can screen these people that are going to be needing to get out, have a place to house them within the perimeter. Maybe, I don't know. I'm not a genius. I'm not a rocket surgeon, but instead of just like this chaos, like you said, chaos, and that was something that I took away from this documentary I watched about it last night. One of the commanders said, I never want to say this to my troops, and I never have said this in my life before, but he said when we got there and got on the ground, he says, I didn't know what the hell we needed to be doing. And it was like just a sea of humanity coming. And he said, all I could think was get everybody together and start pushing back. Like that was like, that's the plan. Like, where was and we can get into this accountability later on, but why was there no plan? Whose fault is this? Like, this seems like it's higher level Pentagon, like generals type, like plan, like you said, planning. Like these are people, they do everything very intentionally in the military. And this does not seem like, it seemed like some bureaucrat made this call and then just threw it out there and left it to the freaking military to just sink or swim. Is that
pretty much? Yeah. Talking about Bagram, it was fortified. It was secure. It was huge, able to land those C-17s and all the rest of the transport planes and all of that stuff safely on Bagram. But to no one's surprise, the prior administration that we have now allowed Bagram to just disappear in the middle of the night. And at least from my perspective and what little I do know, it would have taken months to fortify HKIA. There's no way they would have been able to fortify it in that 2-week time. In that 2-week time frame. Yes, it came down from on high because President Biden, in his infinite wisdom, wanted the end of the war just prior to 9/11, so he could get his legacy that he ended the 20-year war on the same date that it started. And so they in my estimation, and talking to Taylor's guys and some of the other guys that were there, it was just, there was no plan. There was no nothing. We find out as we keep going, General McKenzie, commander of CENTCOM at the time, went to Qatar and was meeting with, making whatever deals he was trying to make. And the leader of the Taliban was there and asked him, he said, how do you feel about the Taliban taking over security of HKIA? And, we'll allow things to go on, but we would like to do the perimeter. And General McKenzie said, I have no problem with that. Okay. This is the Taliban that we've been fighting for the last 20 years. And you're okay with them doing security around where our guys are going to be, getting people out that need to get out, and you're okay with this. The leader of the Taliban, asked him, well, do you need to run it up the chain of command back to ultimately, obviously, the president? Nope, I'm making the decision right here, right now. And it's mind-boggling, dude. It absolutely blows my mind that he would stoop to that level and allow the enemy that we've been fighting for the last 20 years to be the security of all of our guys. The 82nd Airborne that was there, the 1st Battalion, 8th Marines, 2nd Battalion, 1st Marines, the British, it's mind-boggling to me. Absolutely mind-boggling to me. And when they backtrack a little bit, when they started deciding that they were going to go in, they called the NEO way too late. Way, 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 way too late. That should have been called months in advance. What? A NEO?
Yeah.
The NEO, the non-combatant evacuation operation.
Okay, yeah, I wasn't familiar.
They called that way too late. It would have taken, to do it right, it would have taken at minimum a couple of months for the military to gear up and spin up and get trained on what they were going to do. But no, they did it in just a short, truncated time. But none of the generals that were there, you've got General Milley, Chairman of the Joint Chiefs. You've got the Secretary of the Army, Secretary of the Navy. You've got the Secretary of Defense, Lloyd Austin, in there, and Mackenzie was in there too. Through all of this experience and everything else, you couldn't come up with a better plan. None of them they supposedly disagreed with Biden, but none of them were man enough to slap down their stars. None of them stood up and said, you do this, I'm stepping down. I'm not going to be a part of this. None of them were man enough to even do that. And it's ridiculous. It's stupid to think that this could all be done in less than a month. Knowing now what we know and what we've been told from, military members, veterans, that there's no way this could have been done even under the best of circumstances. This couldn't have been done in that small amount of time. But the kids were put in there, and I call them kids. There's some that are older than me, but our kids were the front line, and they made the absolute best out of the circumstances that they were given. Very professional, got the things done that needed to be done. Consequences be damned. Unfortunately, it took our 13. It took another 45 plus being injured physically, not to mention the emotional and the psychological toll that it took on everybody that was there.
And if we can back up just a little, you said that Taylor said it was a shit show on the ground. Like, how long was that before the incident happened at Abbey Gate? Was it like a week or two or a few days before?
It was so Taylor and 2-1 got there the 15th, 16th of August. So a couple of weeks before all of this went down, and they had to secure the runway. They had to secure, the gates coming into the airport. So yes, they were pushing people back. The view on the ground of all of the men and women climbing up on the planes and climbing up on the landing gear and falling off the planes after they took off.
Those were all prior to the incident, right? That was
correct.
The babies over the fences. I'm trying to, it's been 5 years, so I'm trying to put this kind of in order. And so
correct. So they keep the people back from the airport, from the runway, able to safely land the planes, let them take off, what have you. And so they had backed everybody out. There was a couple of gates that were running, Abbey Gate and North Gate. I believe there was one other one, but they had to shut them. Gate. Yeah, it's East Gate. And they had to shut all of those down because...
To give a little color to what you're saying, like I witnessed, I was watching the documentary and it was showing they were using Apache helicopters flying as low as they could on the runways to get people back.
Yeah.
I saw them use the Afghan special forces. They said, hey, we can't get these people off the runway. So they were out, one unit was out running over people, shooting people, just mowing them down to finally get them to say, hey, okay, that's enough. We're not going to be out here. People falling off the airplane. Like it was gruesome. Some of the stuff I saw, and it was just like to have the 2-week, 10-day period of just chaos and savagery and murder and like people falling off the planes and the babies. Like somebody should have said, hey, like we've got to change tactics, change what we're doing. We need to put this on pause, ask for another 30 days, whatever we needed to do with the town, whatever, because there's so many lives just being thrown away. And then not to mention, so I'm going to let you keep going, but I just wanted to kind of bring some insight into that because it was like bad decision after like just horrific scenes, like just that the Afghan people just running over their own people on the like insane to me, the amount of lack of value of life.
Correct.
And then so we'll let you take back over. You said, so now they've got everybody pushed back.
And the Taliban is surrounding all of it. People are having to get through a Taliban checkpoint before they even get to our Marines.
And so they're doing an exterior, like a outside security. Our guys have inside the wire. They're outside the wire.
Correct. But so people are coming up, and some people were being killed. Some were being beaten. Families broken apart. Send mom in to go away. Dad, you're staying here. You're not getting to go anywhere because they're fighting age males.
Right. Well,
And
also,
so
you've got these people who are aiding Americans against the Taliban coming through a Taliban checkpoint to get out because they're terrified the Taliban's going to kill them. They're like, they put marks on these people's backs and they're like, go through the Taliban checkpoint to get out to where you need to escape to safety. Like,
right.
what kind? I don't know. I go ahead.
Yep.
Sorry, I hate to keep interrupting you. I just see these crazy things in my mind, but go ahead.
Oh, you're good. And then the people that the kids would check through and walk down the canal to the State Department where they were okaying the visas or not okaying the visas. Those who were not okay were sent back outside the gate to their death.
Yeah, the lady was saying, said they were throwing them in the sewage canal, over the wall into the canal. If they got said, they were like, no, they're no good. They would throw them out into the sewage canal. Like, what?
Well, so all of the people were in that canal and on the other side of it, which there's not a whole lot of, and I don't know the footage or anything. It looked like there was maybe 20, 30, 40, 50 feet from the sewage canal to the fence. And then our guys were on the other side.
Yeah.
But yeah, they were all down in the sewage canal too, wanting to get out. And yes, they're throwing their babies over the razor wire, handing them off to our Marines through the razor wire, just wanting a better life for their kids. You know, and you got all these Marines that they're seeing this, they're being a part of it, and you know the moral injury that many, if not all of them, have right now, seeing and being a part of this.
What did they do with children? Like, where did they bring them to the U.S. or what?
To other countries yeah. They tried to reunite with their parents. If their parents made it, they tried to reunite them. If not, they tried to find, the way I understand it, find other family members, extended family that the kids could go to. But you know, the kids are there. They don't necessarily. It was just a really quick. Okay, this is what you're looking for. This is what a visa looks like. This is what SIV looks like. This is what you should be looking for. Just a quick rundown for those guys that are out there. They don't know what in the tarnation they're looking for.
Right.
You know, but they figure
or whatever. They can't tell.
Right. And they don't know for sure what it is. And so they're looking at all these papers and everything else, and they think it looks good, think that's what it is. They pull the family or the mothers and fathers or kids, whatever, walk them down to the State Department who had, you know, their setup down along the end of the canal there. Were they okayed or kiboshed them being able to get onto the airport, to be able to get on a plane and be able to leave?
You said these guys, the State Department guys, were working around the clock, like nonstop the whole time we're there. Isn't that what you told me earlier?
No, they were working bankers hours, 9 to 5. At the most, we found out they had 30 employees on the ground. The State Department did. 30 employees.
They can only, this is insane to me. You're extending the exposure of these Marines, sailors, Army on the front line because you want to work bankers hours instead of working around the clock and shifts or whatever to get these people through so we can get out of here faster. You're going to go work 9 to 5, take the rest of the day off and go to wherever you're going, to the cantina, whatever you're doing. Now these guys got to be out on the wire longer, exposed, at danger. And this is around the same time they had everything locked down. They finally got everybody pushed back, everything situated, and then I guess they heard there was a threat, right? There was a threat from ISIS that went out or something. Was that what happened? Or
that came down? That you know, they were getting daily reports of things that were happening. You know, people to look for, things to watch for, and they got the intel that this guy was coming in, like Tyler Vargas Andrews said in his testimony to Congress. You know, clean shaven, wearing certain colors, certain garb, coming in with an older gentleman, and to be on the lookout. And, you know, a couple of days prior, he's still coming. We're still getting information that he's coming. Okay, he's here somewhere. He's here. So they shut down. By that time, all of the other gates were closed. They had to literally put Humvees and other vehicles up against the gates to keep the Afghans from pushing through all of that and concentrated everything on Abbey Gate. And so they shut down the gate for a few hours and then decided that they were going to open it back up and finish that afternoon and evening and then call it. Well, once they opened it back up, Sergeant Vargas Andrews and his team of snipers had what they said, and I believe 100%, that they did have this individual, and asked their commander, Lieutenant Colonel Whited, whether they could take the shot. And, pulled him up there, showed him what they had. They've got a humongous setup for those snipers, and they had recorded some stuff, and called the lieutenant colonel up there, and he said, I can't give you authorization to do it. Well, who does? I don't know. You're one of the commanders on the ground, damn it. And that's one of our frustrations. We don't know if he sent that up the chain of command, and if he did, where it went, where this breakdown was, but they never got word back to be able to take that shot.
It almost sounded like he was already handcuffed before it happened, like something he had already been told, like under no circumstances take it. Like, does it? I mean,
and we don't know that. Hopefully, that's going to be coming out soon.
Surely he's went before Congress and testified about what that decision-making process was. Is that probably?
He did go before Congress, but and it was the House Foreign Affairs Committee, but it was in a skiff, so we don't know what was said behind closed doors. Have no idea. It wasn't out in the public. It was behind closed doors, so we have no idea.
What about a taking out a potential target or not needs to be done in a skiff? Like, why is that top secret? Why does that? Because they work for us. They forget DC works for the people. We deserve. Correct. If anybody needs to know, we deserve to know. Like, correct. Why was the shot not approved, or why was it approved? Like, I don't understand.
And we don't either. Again, that's our frustration.
And he hasn't said, well, it was my superior so-and-so, or he hasn't said that at all.
Not out in public. No, not a single solitary word. And he's now a full bird colonel. He's still in full bird colonel.
And so was he the ranking officer? He was over the snipers, or was he the ranking officer, like boots on the ground that day? Or
so he was the commander of 2-1 that was on the ground. So snipers fall under him, yes.
What was his name? What was his name again?
Lieutenant Colonel Bradley Whited, Whited. Right. Now a full bird colonel, still in the Corps. Don't know where he's at, but he's still in the Corps.
How does somebody like that? I can't imagine being in leadership and having men under me that their lives are in my hands that I'm responsible for, and I neglect my duty, make a bad call like that, and I'm willing to accept a promotion and keep going on up the chain of command after I've failed these 13 heroes. I couldn't look myself in the mirror. Like, I would be ashamed of myself after having an opportunity to save these people, to at least get them through another day. And
one would think.
Continue to take that pat on the back and the raise and the, oh, look, I got a new thing for my uniform. I can't imagine.
I can't either. Imagine being us. Imagine being their kids. And again, I call them kids. They've got some older individuals in there as well, but his underlings, all the people, all the kids that were underneath his command, how do you think they feel? The moral injury because of his lack of leadership.
And they are children. They are the best. They are the best of us. They gave
absolutely.
They give everything. They do it every day. They are the best of us. They are just your son. They're the neighbor. They're the guy. You know what I mean? They're the ones that put on the hat and go to work. That's them. They chose to go stand on that battlefield for us.
Right.
I think that's why it's our obligation and our duty to fight for them when they're no longer here to fight for themselves.
100%. And that's why, so we formed a coalition, and there's 8 of the 13 families in that coalition. We've been testifying before Congress. We've been pestering the living daylights out of them. They did the investigation. House Foreign Affairs Committee did the investigation. Yes, there were failings, but they didn't recommend anything happen.
Like disciplinary wise, you mean? Or
if, make changes to either the DOD or DOW now.
Like a policy change.
Right, or a new law or anything like that. They can make those recommendations. What the military or what the administration does with that, a whole different story. But they do the investigation, and based on, what they saw and what they uncovered, can make those suggestions. And then
go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I want to kind of bring us back. So the snipers have the guy, the ranking officer says no, negative. The man detonates, the animal detonates himself. I mean, and so I kind of want to go to that moment in your life, when had you talked to him prior to this, and then what was going on, how, I know that's got to be a horror, and I hate to even, ask you to get into that, but what was going on, how was that like, but what was, share that moment with me, where, he's obviously told you it's horrible shit going on, and I'm sure you've got follow-up calls, but when was the last time you spoke to him, and then when the incident happened? So if you can just kind of take us to the moment that you got the news, and if there was some inkling, because I know there was the warning that something was going to happen, if what led up to it, and then when your son's life was taken, I can't imagine having that news, but if you could just share that.
So the call that I got from him was when he was leaving to head into Afghanistan. He said, "Dad, I can't tell you where I'm going. I can't tell you what I'm doing. Just watch the news. You'll figure it out. But understand, I'm with a bunch of kick-ass guys." And the only thing I said was, bring them home. Bring yourself home safe, and we'll see you on the other side. That was the last phone call I got from him. He called his mom every day. She and I had gotten divorced, years before this, but we still remained obviously very good friends. So she'd keep me updated on what was happening and all of that, and he told her, "Mom, these are like my little sisters. These are like you. I want to get these people out of here, and as many as I can." He wouldn't sleep. He'd always be out at the gate. And if he did get a little bit of shut-eye, it was maybe an hour or two, and then right back at it, because they had shift work. His company was out during the nighttime hours. Golf company was out during the daytime hours. And so it was back and forth, back and forth. And so the shutdown of the State Department, you can imagine everybody just still trying to force their way forward, and these guys keeping them at bay, for the night. But fast forwarding to his mom would get his daily calls. She'd keep me informed. I was driving back out to where I worked at the time, and she kept calling me. She's like, "I don't have a good feeling. There's something wrong. I don't have a good feeling about this." And we talk, we said a prayer as I'm driving, went in for a job interview with a different place, different police department, came out of it. We talked again. She's adamant something has happened, and she thinks that it's Taylor. And I'm trying to be positive. I'm trying to stay positive. No, he's got a good head on his shoulders. It's not him. He's going to be okay. We said another prayer, get to a friend's house that night, and I get a call from my dad. "And you need to know something about my old man. He never cries, ever. I've only seen the man cry like I could count on one hand how many times I'd seen the man cry. And he could barely get it out. He said, "There's 2 Marines standing at the door." And I lost it. I knew exactly what it was. I guess I let out the most primeval scream, yell, whatever you want. It scared everybody that I was around. I started making phone calls, to my former wife is living with one of my daughters and her husband. The other daughter was 3 hours away from her, and I tried to get a hold of her and couldn't. So I called Kelly, who's my former wife, called Kelly's dad, and had him run over to my other daughter and give her the news. Trying to call back to Kelly and to my daughter and son-in-law that she was with. Couldn't get through. In the meantime, my sheriff at the time came over, picked me up, drove me back down here, 2.5 hours. And I came in the house, met with the Marines that told me Taylor was gone. Once I found out, we're listening to the news, and the numbers keep ticking up and ticking up and ticking up. And finally it stopped at 13, with several injured. Find out later, 3 of them mortally, life-changing. I shouldn't say mortally, life-changing. But then it was a whirlwind after that. We needed to get to Dover. We needed to be here. We needed to be there. We needed to start doing all this stuff, making arrangements. Everything just just flew by. And unfortunately, a lot of it was on Kelly's shoulders. There was some things I could help her with, but it was basically on her shoulders and our Keiko's. And Keiko is casualty assistance something officer, but she had one and I was assigned one. And through our two Keiko's, if hers couldn't get something done, mine usually could. And if neither one of them could get anything done, I had already been given phone numbers to the governor, my two senators, a couple of the congressmen, and I wound up having to call them a couple of times to help us out with arrangements. It was just 90 from 0 to breakneck speed that everything happened. But my mind goes.
You didn't really get a chance to grieve. It doesn't sound like it's like you get the news and it's like, okay, we've got to do this, that, the other, and it's like you don't get a chance to take a deep breath and just like not that
really didn't.
Yeah, rest in that place. But goddamn,
we really didn't. And Dover was a different experience. At first, they told us only 3 family members could be there, and so that would have been Kelly's mom, our 2 daughters, or me and his mom and one of our daughters. I'm like, no. This isn't going to happen. Absolutely not. And so I called one of my senators and he started making phone calls and he was on it. He was on it from the jump. Him, Senator Mike Lee, and then Senator Lindsey Graham, who is Air Force, obviously. God rest his soul. We were sitting outside Austin's office telling him, you need to fix this. You need to fix this. You need to fix this, dude. You really need to fix this. And so it came down. Finally, we could have, as many as we wanted out there at Dover. They came through and asked if we wanted to meet the president. Absolutely not. Dover is set up. You come in the doors and you've got 3 separate sections that have got like a wall in the middle and it's open on the end. And you had 3 different sections of that. And then you had a couple of rooms around the outside. I think there was either 2 or 3, and they got plush couches and, and tables and all of that kind of stuff. And we were treated very good by the Navy. Holy smokes. Or the Air Force, whoever it was, treated very well. But we said we didn't want to meet with the president. And they said, okay, no, we're adamant. We don't want to see him. We don't want to talk to him. Nothing. They're like, okay. So they put us in a room in the corner. The room had doors to it and glass throughout, glass panes throughout the door. We let the commandant of the Marine Corps in. We had the sergeant major of the Marine Corps come in. Talk to them, briefly. And, it took forever for the president to come through. When he walked in the door, bless her heart, there was a military gal standing outside. So they shut the doors. We still got the glass in there. One of the dads and one of the sisters of one of the fallen and the grandpa of another one found out that we weren't meeting with the president. Well, do you mind if we come in? Absolutely. Come on in. Anybody else that doesn't want to talk to him, come on in. Because it was a big room. But we shut the doors. The gal on the outside is standing at parade rest, hands behind her back. She had a hold of the 2 doorknobs to the room. Mine and Kelly's Keiko's turned their back to the door, and we're standing there and we're holding the door handles as well. The president came through, and I didn't see this. Kelly did, because I refused to look at the man. He walked by and looked in the window with this dumbfounded look on his face like, well, I want to talk to you. No, you don't. You don't want to come in this room, dude. You do not want to come in this room. And he just walked on and talked to the rest of the families, and then they pulled us all together, told us which order they were coming off the plane to be put in the vans to take to the coroner's office. And we're all standing out there on the flight line. You've got, as everybody's seeing, you've got the president, his cabinet, Secretary of Defense at that time, General Milley, CENTCOM commander. I don't remember not CENTCOM, Joint Chiefs of Staff. McKenzie, I don't remember if he was there, the CENTCOM commander. I don't remember if he was there or not. But the infamous, looking at his watch. And I'm telling you, there was 2 families that did a separate ramp ceremony than all the rest of us. We didn't know that was an option at the time, or else we would have done it. But there was 11 caskets, flag draped caskets that came off of that plane. And after every single one of them, Shane, I'm telling you, after every single one of them, that bastard looked down at his watch. like he had somewhere else to be. Such disrespect, such dishonor, such, I mean, I'll tell you this, I've told it before to a few people, but I started looking around, to see where everybody is and see if I can get across that little bit of space to get running over there. I don't know what I would have done once I got there, but I had in mind, but I'm starting to look around and I feel this big paw on my shoulder. Don't even think about it. And it was Kelly's Keiko that had his paws on me. He said, don't do it. And I'm like, I got to. No, don't. You've got snipers all over the place. Don't do it. Okay. Come to find out later, my other son-in-law, he was starting to look around too and got down to the end of the cordon and was just about ready to make the turn. And my Keiko grabbed him and pulled him back. Nope, I'm not going to do this. But I'm serious. After every casket came off, he looked at his watch. And I'm not joking. Everybody says, bullshit, he only did it that one time. No. He did it after every last one of them.
I wasn't sure. I was sitting here thinking about that. Was that I remember that incident, but I didn't know if this was specifically when this happened. That is absolutely insane, and I'm sorry that he would fucking. I mean, you probably can't. He's a vegetable at that point, anyways. But I just can't. I can't. The disregard and disrespect is. I don't blame you for wanting to run across that tarmac. At least give him a piece of your mind, or stick a finger in his face, or whatever. But god dang it, man, I can't. I can't imagine.
And from then on, we didn't hear a thing. Nothing from the cabinet. Absolutely zero.
Well,
about a year later,
you, hey, we're gonna do an investigation. We're gonna get back to you. We're gonna let you know what happened. There's gonna be an after action report or something. You would think,
nothing.
Right?
Well, one would think, but nothing happened. Absolutely nothing happened. About a year after that incident, a year after the bombing, I don't want to go back to what Taylor was doing after he was hit. He was standing, Sergeant Vargas Andrews had come down from the sniper tower. Taylor had called him down, and they were looking for a specific family. And they found the family, but they weren't all together. So they sent the one guy back to find the rest of his family and bring them up. So they were, I don't know, however many feet apart, but it wasn't much. Checking everybody else's IDs as they were going, but they were together when the bomb went off. Taylor had the wherewithal to try and start a tourniquet around his legs, and he was still handing out his ammo out of his vest to his guys to keep them in the fight. This was a complex attack, no matter what they say. This was a complex attack. There was gunfire long after the bomb went off. But yeah, that's the kind of man he is. His training took over, but his last thought was his guys on the ground handing out his ammo to them to keep them in it. And then for the military to say that, after they got all, or most of the reports anyways, of what happened, to say that the kids had TBI, they had concussions, they had this, their thinking wasn't clear. They didn't see what they actually saw. They didn't go through any of this. You've got guys that have got bolt cutters cutting through the fence to get the wounded through instead of running down clear around the end of the fence and coming back down. You got guys you can't tell me that they didn't know what the hell was going on. They knew exactly what was going on. They had the wherewithal to make that decision to cut a hole in the fence and take the guys out through that. But anyways, going back to, not hearing anything, about a year later, all of us got a canned letter. And by canned, I mean, it wasn't personal to our kid. It wasn't anything. It looks like it was photocopied.
Like a generic.
I know the signature was a copy. It wasn't even a personal signature. It was copied. And each letter said the exact same thing to all the families. That's the only thing we got.
From the president or
from the administration, from anybody else. That's it. That's all we got.
Was the letter from the president, though? Is that what it was?
Yes.
It was auto pen signed, probably, I was assuming.
Well, the first one may have been, but all the rest were just photocopies.
Right. I've got about 14 minutes till I have to check out, so I kind of want to get into accountability. So that was the last you heard from anybody,
from the administration, yes.
Yeah. So really, to you've lost so much, man, and your family has suffered so much. What does accountability look like for you? And then I want to get into that, and I also want to get into how you're carrying Taylor's legacy forward after that. So
The accountability for me is that, even to admit that they did wrong, that's at least something. Have an admission from the vegetable in chief, from the vice president, from Department of Defense, from CENTCOM, from, you name it, State Department, which is another cluster in and of itself. But even just that, from the military leaders, Milley, McKenzie, Austin, lose their pensions, get busted down, lose their pensions, lose everything. Now, do I understand war is hell? Absolutely, 100%. Yes, I do. Things happen. Yes, they do. But this was preventable. This whole thing was preventable. I want them to lose everything.
I mean,
make it a little bit painful for them because they've got no pain. We're the ones living with the pain.
Even an investigation, right? Like at least just, how about we'll do an outside looking in investigation into everything that happened, everybody that was involved, the breakdown in the chain of command, the decision making, I don't know. That's kind of this way for me for January 6th. I don't necessarily need scalps. I want them. I would just be happy with an honest, thorough investigation and an explanation. Maybe an apology. I don't need a payment. I don't need anybody to go to prison or to get executed. What I need is the truth, the unvarnished, like untampered with truth.
Right.
I can deal with, if they can call somebody into a skiff to testify, give the families clearance for a day, sign NDAs, whatever. You go to prison if you break the NDA. Here's what happened. You can't talk about it after, but we want to let you know what happened, why this happened to your son, to your daughter, whatever. That way you can at least say, okay, I understand now. I can see why that decision was made, or that dude fucked up. It wasn't these guys' faults, whatever. Give me an explanation. Hold somebody accountable would be great. It's not required for me. I want an answer. You know what I mean?
Right. And so through all of this, President Trump has stood by our sides. I mean, completely 100% by our sides. Approximately a month after that happened, he invited Kelly and I, one of our daughters, Taylor's girlfriend, down to Mar-a-Lago just to go in and see him. For 45 minutes, we talked to the man in his office. No interruptions, no nothing. He stood with us the entire time. We've been in the Oval Office with him last year. Secretary Hegseth was in there. Secretary of the VA was in there. A couple of the others. But between the president and Secretary Hegseth, they commissioned a team of investigators that they promised us, and now it's been almost a year, they promised us during this summer that they would have the investigation done and we would have our answers. Yeah, and I understand, and I'm cautiously optimistic that we're going to get that. He said by summer. He didn't say when in the summer. Summer's still going on, although we're getting to the tail end of it, like you just said. But cautiously optimistic on this one. CENTCOM called us down to them, gave us a rundown of the day before and the day of the incident. That was it. Didn't give us any information and pretty much lied to us. But this report, I'm hoping they've had enough time to go through it and figure it out, and we'll see.
Well, I'm hopeful for that. And so we'll be, and maybe they're rolling it out near the 5th anniversary. We can hope something like that is going to happen to give you guys some answers and honor these heroes, these children, your children, this treasure, the best of us. We can get some answers for them and for your families. Well, so God rest all their souls, man. I want to say thank you for coming on here, but I want to know how you're going to carry Taylor's legacy forward.
That's the best part.
Yeah, no, and what you're going to do and how the viewers, we may only get 20 freaking views. I don't care, but I want people to know the truth. I want to know how they can help and what we can do to help as a community to support you guys and move the football.
And I appreciate that. So his mom started up a memorial for him. It's the Staff Sergeant Taylor Hoover Memorial.org. You can go in there. The donations that we get go to mainly kids coming out of high school to kind of get a leg up, give them scholarships to either traditional college or a trade school, whatever the case may be. Kind of give them that kickstart on life. But what's more, at least near and dear to my heart, and it came from my daughter and my son-in-law, giving canines to veterans. We just gave out our eighth one or ninth one, I don't remember which, to a veteran here in Utah. Very, very good people, deserving people, the veterans are, to be recognized once again and to help them with their moral injury.
Right.
You know, from being over there in the sandbox and seeing all that, they've got the moral injury. They've got the post-traumatic stress. They've got all of that. And so the dog helps to mitigate that. So between those two things, scholarships and the Canines for Vets, that's what we're all about. And it's carrying Taylor's legacy forward. Something that was near and dear to him was definitely the vets, for sure. And he saw the need for that. But there's plenty of stuff. Our big fundraiser for the year is coming up on September 19th in West Memphis, Arkansas. That is our 5K. You can get on the website and sign up for that if you're close. If you're not, you can sign up virtually, get a swag bag, all that kind of stuff. And every last bit of the profit goes towards the kids and the canines.
I would like to make that, man. I would like to make that run, man. I think that would be special to me. So.
It really is. I mean, it's a good thing. It's a good time. Everybody gets together. We get to talk about him, you know, all over again, and talk about his 12 brothers and sisters that died with him. So yeah, that's our big one this year. So anybody can do it, more than welcome to come.
September 19th and where in Arkansas?
West Memphis, Arkansas. So just barely over the river from Memphis, Tennessee.
Okay. And is that, so I had a question too, and this is, are you in Utah or you're in Arkansas?
I'm in Utah.
Okay.
So his mom and I got married in Arkansas, stayed there for a year. He was born there in Memphis, and then we moved out here after he was a year old, and we stayed here the rest of his time.
Okay. So I want to close this out, but also I'm going to be, do you know where Manila, Utah is?
Uh-huh.
We're going to be up there, a bunch of J6ers, a lot of veterans. My buddy Green Beret, Jeff McKellop, he's going to be up there. Several other Marines are going to be there, but for the Manila Rodeo, which is the Daggett County Rodeo, I guess, September 4th and 5th. So if you get a chance, or if you're close to there, I would love for you to come down. There's going to be a lot of old veterans there.
That's where I used to work. That was my last agency.
Daggett County?
Daggett County Sheriff's Office was my last agency.
What?
So yeah, if I can be there, if I can get it, I will most definitely be there.
What was the sheriff's name? He was so cool. Eric
Bailey.
That's him. Yeah. He took us up to the jail. He took us up to the jail up there. We filmed some footage. It's all shut down now, but he took us in there to film some footage. Yeah, man. Good, solid, salt of the earth people up there, man. Loved it.
Very much so.
If you could be there, I would love to make that happen. Then maybe I can make it down to Arkansas. I live in Indianapolis. So
okay.
I'm going to go ahead. If I could I'm going to generically get us out of here. So I want to give you the last word. If you want to say, I would like for you to share what people can do to help, or something that you feel like that the world needs to hear.
Well, first of all, I appreciate the opportunity to come on here. Like I told you in the beginning, I will talk day and night about my son. I could not be more proud of him. The country's come together. You know, the main thing, there's two things that we ask. Say their names, never forget them. A veteran dies 2 deaths. Obviously the physical one, but they die a second time when their names are no longer spoken. And so those 2 things, that's all I can ask. Go on our website to learn about Taylor. Go on United 13, where we do memorial walks. Those are coming up here, starting here in a week and a half or so. And then this is nationwide, worldwide. We've got all the continents covered to do these walks. And it's all in remembrance of the kids. So that's what we ask. Say their names and never forget.
Yes, sir. And that's Staff Sergeant Taylor Hoover Memorial.org. Is that the website?
Correct.
Okay,
Correct.
I got that right. I was making sure. Well, Mr. Hoover, it's been an honor and a pleasure. I feel like it ripped my heart out a little bit, but I can only imagine what you're going through. I'm so thankful for you taking the time to come on Liberty's Cage with me and share your story. I hope, America, you have enjoyed it, and we will see you next time with more Liberty's Cage. I'm Shane Jenkins. Goodbye. All right. Yeah, I really appreciate it, Darin. And I'll give you my word. I'm gonna do my damnedest to get down there to that 5K. I think that would be
awesome. That would be awesome. They got food trucks, all that kind of stuff down there.
Well, I definitely gotta be there now.
And it's good Southern cooking, let me tell you.
Okay.
It is some good Southern cooking.
There we go. Well, I appreciate it. If you have, if you look back on this and there's something you don't want to talk about, or you want me to take out, or before we release this, maybe I can get you a copy of it so you can watch it if you want to, or just let me know. I don't want I don't want to cross any boundaries or overstep anywhere. It's an honor for me to be a part of this and to just try to help, because I think we're all, as Americans, trying to move forward in the same direction from different avenues for accountability and limited government, so if we had a smaller government, maybe they'd screw up less. I don't know what we're looking to do, but I want us to get there to where we can at least have, they work for us. They owe us accountability. It's not a privilege that we get, or it's really a right. It's a duty that they owe us. Is they work for us. We demand answers, and we want those. And so, if I can help you get those, man, I'd love to, brother.